by the ANC's new provincial leadership is currently underway.
And what is happening, and we're happy that you observe on your own that this conference was successful, events-free, of course characterized by robust engagement, but united at the end. As President alluded, you cannot suppress democracy in the ANC. It is a critical feature which defines ourselves. In fact, it's what we call a distinguisher. It's what distinguishes the ANC from other parties. So, in expressing that democracy, members will have their own views, but at the end, once we take a decision, that decision binds all of us. We conclude the conference with an acknowledgement of task given to the provincial leadership. It is not positions, but these are responsibilities. It is always wrong to approach the elections in the ANC as a position, but it is quite important to approach it as a responsibility. We've said that the critical task is to ensure unity of the ANC. We are believing that emerging from this conference will be more united in the organization, working coherently, but also working with all structures toward the same agenda, winning the local government elections and strengthening the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal. That is the first priority. The second priority that the conference emphasized is that of strengthening the implementation. Hence, both the declaration and the closing remarks talk to the capacity of the state, in particular, the civil service, that we must strengthen civil service and ensure that we've got cadres who serve people effectively and efficiently. We've also said we must fight corruption whenever it shows its ugly head and have a state, the government, that is free of corruption. So ours is to ensure good governance to the people. The third point is the question of basic services. You will know that we've got challenges of drought, as the declaration alluded. But challenge of drought comes also with a challenge of just having clean pipe water connected to each household. And that is one thing that the ANC government is engaged on in KwaZulu-Natal. Then lastly, it's a challenge of dealing with economic transformation as well as the creation of employment. Those are priorities that are emerging from the conference. I think that will be the summary, but the comrades will add where I've left.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much, Chair. Comrades from the media, it's your time for questions, for clarity, but we don't have enough time. Thank you. Yes, Mohan.
My name is Bongani Hansen from the Provincial. Comrade Ujoka said since the chairperson, the new chairperson is no longer the secretary, he might need the province to help him to get another means of earning salary, and that might include looking at the government or even the legislation. And I just want to find out if we might see any reshuffling in the cabinet or especially in the cabinet anytime soon.
Extremely so.
from KZN. During the nomination of the additional members, it appeared that the members that were nominated from the floor, if you allow me to use that inverted commas, exceed the number that the PEC is supposed to have. How are the other members who are going to be laid off after voting, of course, are going to know that, yes, you were nominated, but you did not meet the required votes against who?
Claudine Nami from ANC. Chairperson, I've asked you this question earlier, and I want to throw it now, seeing that you're sitting there as a collective. And the question simply is, do you believe that the Premier of the province, Senator Putin, remains a capable leader of government and will see out his term of office? And the second question, in your speech moments ago, you spoke about those that had attacked President Jacob Zuma, I guess seemingly in support of what the president was saying yesterday. The question therefore would be, do you agree with the president's utterances, especially towards the former deputy president, Kgalemo Motlanthe, even though, of course, the president, we know he did not mention him by name, but we know that he said those that go to the papers to proclaim that the alliance, ANC-led alliance, is dead. So the question is, does this leadership agree with the utterances of President Jacob Zuma? Yes.
No. I think I will prefer to take one, the first and the last, so that we share. The first, no, there is no possible cabinet reshuffling. We had a conference of the ANC here, and that was the conference of the ANC. If there is someone who was the secretary who's no longer the secretary, it will be the ANC that will discuss that, but it doesn't amount to say there is a possible reshuffling of the cabinet, and we should not take it that way. Only, I think I must come to that question because I believe it's not a correct understanding. The president talked about people who attack the ANC. Beside people attacking the ANC, I spoke from an angle of a march of the ANC Women's League. And the march of the ANC Women's League took place, I think, 2 weeks ago or so. The issues you are referring to, the pronouncement by the former deputy president, I think happened last week after the march of the ANC Women's League. We are referring here to people who continue to attack the president of the ANC, attack the president in a way that attack even his character. And these people are doing so with the sole intention of undermining the integrity of the ANC, delegitimize the ANC from the society. And that cannot go unchallenged. As the province, we are fully behind the leadership of the ANC as led by President Zuma. In particular, the manner in which he is leading the country as the president of the country and the manner in which he is leading the ANC. On his comment about issues of comrades who speak to the media and attack the organization, that is the separate matter, but we share the same view. Our position is that, or our view is that members of the ANC are at liberty to express their views. But if you are a member of the ANC, you've got a platform. The ANC itself And therefore, you go to the ANC and you raise issues. You avoid attacking the organization in the media. When we were speaking, closing the conference, we referred to the 2000 NGC declaration. In that declaration, we say, when we debate inside the house. And when we celebrate, we dance in front of the world. That was the 2002, no, that was the 2000, year 2000, the first National General Council, emphasizing the principle that members of the ANC have a right to raise any view, but they must come to the ANC and raise those issues instead of talking from other platforms. I think that will answer you. With regard to issues that relate to governance, I've been answering Comrade Siwa and Comrade Nopala, Treasurer. We've been answering this question that we don't talk to issues of if. I even said at some point, Bundebele said the battle of if doesn't win and has never won any fight before. Even now, that answer is still relevant. We've got a full confidence to the Premier. He's a leader of the ANC. He's assigned to that responsibility by the ANC. We're not electing the government leadership here, we're electing the ANC leadership. And therefore, the question of beginning to ask our confidence to the Premier doesn't arise. We came here with a full confidence to him as a Premier of the province. We are emerging from this conference with not even a single word about him and premiership, because we're not electing the government, but we're electing ANC structures. I think I'll end there because there are other questions, but Machingwane will come in.
No, I think, Chairperson, let's start with the issue of the Premier. You have very correctly indicated that this conference was not about the premiership. It has nothing to do with the premiership. But what I think we must add is that we must also remember where the authority over premiers lies. They lie with the presidency. Premiers are appointed by the president. Now, if they are to be reshuffled, that's obviously the main area of reshufflement. It is not the issues of the provinces. Provinces have a view that they have given space to have a view, but it must be because there is a need. I'm saying that because we do not know what other processes exist anywhere. So therefore, that matter cannot be conclusively answered by us. I think we should just make it rest there. On the issue of how nominees are going to be informed of the final results, what happens here every time when the conference ends and delegates elect, but there is no time for them to wait for the results. These officials who are already elected are the custodians of everything now, together with the Electoral Commission of the ANC, which is an NEC structure. Now, they run the elections to the end, because we don't run elections about ourselves. Once they are concluded, they will then hand over the report to this leadership. From this leadership, the report will then go down to the regions, and from regions to branches, and obviously those elected PEC members will also be formally notified. So that's how the process always unfolds if we come across a situation of this type, and it usually is the case, because our conferences are quite long, and almost every time, by the time we finish, it's already late for some of the branch delegates because people come from very far. And if you come from Mangusi, at the border with Mozambique, leaving from here is trip to there, those, as I'm sure some of you come from that area. That trip alone would easily take you 5 hours. Now, if we finish now, and you still have to stay longer, it's not worth it. So that was those were decisions designed to release people earlier. I think those were the areas which Nopala had left for us to complete.
I can see hands, Ayanda, Zanele, Makina, and Hans, in that order.
Thank you. I am from the SABC. I would like to transfer my question to the Treasurer, Minister Dube, being the only woman, the lady amongst the leadership. Your thoughts on the issue of insurance and voting gender parity. At the moment, you're the only lady. With regards to the additional members, are we likely to see more women, the 50-50 representation?
My home from the new secretary chairpersons of the arrangement, what is going to happen to the questions? Are those regions going to hold any conferences to
Zanele.
Zanele today from SABC News. They have covered that one question that I had. The other question would be maybe to any of the chairperson or anyone at the table. You spoke about the support of the province for President Jacob Zuma. Have you been worried about what the president spoke about in terms of him being considered as a liability now that 2017 is only a couple of years away? Speaking, of course, about the ANC conference that will elect the new leadership, what has been the province's view and what is your view on this point? Thank you.
No, but I just want to find out, since we have left the position of being the secretary, which was earning the salary, how are your other means of what are your other plans in terms of earning the salary and looking after yourself? And another question, on the social media, there have been people who are expressing themselves, saying that 2 years will be too long for the premier to remain in office, and he should be removed as quick as possible. What would you say to those people?
All right, just as a last question from my side, perhaps if I could get an opportunity to rephrase that question of the President. The manner in which he addressed the issue of leaders who have been in the party structures and, of course, those that also attack government when they have been in government themselves, and the manner, therefore, in which he has addressed this issue, do you think that it is geared at fostering unity within the party, especially in the light of what my colleague Zanele is asking, which is that in the lead up to 2017, there are those within party structures that have already started looking at him as a quote-unquote liability within the ANC.
Maybe let me start. The issue, I don't know How I wasn't there when Joe Patla spoke about the secretary and the ANC having to find some ways how the secretary is going to have to leave. Each and every time a leader of the ANC leaves their position, the ANC also does take responsibility for what should that leader do. And the ANC looks at the skills of the individual concerned and looks around. Skills also go with whatever qualifications, and the ANC will look around and suggest where the person must look for a job. That is advice to the person. Where the ANC has authority, it also suggests its own processes. Let me say, for instance, there are many members of the ANC who have had to leave positions in elected leadership and find their way into legislatures. It's a norm. It's not something that we always think twice about. More especially those leaders who, in any case, have been getting elected all the time. You know, when you to consider how the provincial secretary that has now gone out of that office, there is no time when he has never been elected to a legislative institution. There is no time. Now, the ANC may decide that it wants him in the legislature. He has a view. He can say, no, I think this is where I fit better. He could have that view. But it's a matter that the ANC must address together with him, because the ANC must know where is he going from here. And the ANC must know whether from here he has other plans or he doesn't. And look at whatever plans he may have, together with whatever plans the ANC may have. I'm raising it because I don't want you, if tomorrow the ANC decides that no, we actually want to revoke his position in the legislature, that you then think we misled you. No. It's a matter that will have to be addressed together with him, but by the ANC. But it doesn't mean that he doesn't qualify to go to the legislature in any position in the legislature, decided by the ANC when the ANC wants to do that. But at this point in time, he came to the conference. He may have had a view that he may succeed, but he couldn't plan anything on the basis of that. Because when you come to the conferences of the ANC, even changes do happen. At the conference of the ANC, you may come here nominated for something else and end up going from conference in a different position. So I think you must understand that. That basis gives him, therefore, to now say, now here is the result. It gives the ANC an opportunity to now say, here is the result. How do we address it as the structure which owns its members? So I think let's put it that way and not go beyond anything else, because the issue, I think we've pointed out on the issue of the premiership, because the issue of the premiership is the prerogative of the president working with the NEC and the province having a voice there whenever the president wants to do those reshuffles. We were pointing out that one, because you must never think that he has any authority over those matters. Doesn't have any personal authority over them.
Yeah, just a quick comment, Comrade Chair, on two issues. On the first matter of regional chairs being elected, to a provincial executive committee of the ANC. This one is a constitutional matter. Our constitution dictates that if you are elected to a higher structure, therefore it is common cause that you vacate your position at a lower level. But it is not automatic. There is a due process in terms of organizational processes of the ANC that will have to follow. So the respective regions will have to institute a process in consultation with the Provincial Executive Committee to close those vacancies. Then on the issue of the comments of the President being a liability in the ANC, for any member and leader of the ANC to be called a liability, it's wrong in the ANC, because there will never be a member, let alone a leader of the ANC, that would be called a liability in the organization. In relation to 2017, even if the current president is serving his last term, but it does not mean that after 2017, he won't have any role in the ANC as a leader of the ANC. In fact, all our presidents are ex-officio members of the National Executive Committee and are at liberty to participate in all our organizational activities. So it's purely ill-discipline if there is any issue of that nature.
Thank you very much. I want to respond on the issue of race, on the issue of the treasurer being the only female in the top 5. Again, on that issue, it's a constitutional matter. The Constitution talks about 50-50 in a structure. Therefore, the office bearers are not a structure. So when the process of voting for the PEC members and the results thereof, the outcome of that must balance 50-50. We'll reach 50-50 definitely there, because the Constitution says we must have a 50-50 in a structure of the PEC. Thank you.
Thank you, comrades. It seems as if they are all happy. Oh, by the way, there's one hand. I think it's the last one.
Yes, and it's a follow-up on evacuating the positions as Chairman as the Deputy Secretary mentioned. Just want to ask now, since also the Secretary, the newly elected Secretary, is the member of the Provincial Legislature, will he now evacuate his position from the legislature to be full-time in the office? Just
on that one, again, the position of the provincial secretary is the full-time position. I'll therefore immediately resign from the legislature and remain in the organization.
You forgot the question.
Thank you. There's one chair here. Thank you so much. We're done.
So there's a question that was not answered.
Okay, let's answer this question, because it's about people who are calling the president a liability.
No, about people who are saying that the 2 years will be too long for the Premier to remain in this position, in this government position.
Well, being the last question, as we close, let me then answer the question and just make a few comments. I think the issue of liability. No, that is, let me deal with this one. We don't run the organization on the basis of social network. Social network, you know, when a person is writing in a social network, he's writing from his own orientation. Some write from emotional feelings, they are expressing themselves. Some will be writing from subjective views. You will find a person writing about you. I don't know whether you've been subjected to that situation where people write about you in the social media. And it happened to everyone. And I think it's something that we'll want to discourage. Members of the ANC and issues of the ANC are not discussed in social networks. And we come here now. We have to discuss someone we don't know. We don't know who he is or she is. She's not in the structure of the ANC. Seated somewhere, and then you just drop an issue. No, 2 years is long. Whilst the ANC has not said so. So it's something that we must just put aside. I don't think we can consider that as something relevant, even to bless it and say, no, we're responding to it. The issue of president is not a liability, he's working. That's why we are saying in a statement or the closing remarks, we are very pleased with the way he's working. And Comrade Siwa, Comrade Deputy Secretary, alluded to that point, that there is no member of the ANC who can be said to be a liability. Well, given that this was the last question, we will not be interacting frequently as before, and therefore let me time and again bezwana sibuye singazwani celani sometimes I think ibuye idlule Mayibongwe Maqhina, I know that last time we had that interaction ingathi yathi ubarafanyana nayo izodlula futhi but what we always encourage in the ANC is that I don't know whether it's possible when we ask questions, we also research these questions that are asked about the ANC, whether they really exist, such things. You know, at some point I was confronted by people who were saying, I'm gatekeeping. In the media, saying I'm gatekeeping, but I don't recruit. I can only recruit in one branch where I belong. And the person was asking me was really not clear and not informed how the ANC works. But I want to join Comrade Memela to thank all of you for being here. And I think some of you have been stationed here since the beginning of the conference. Some of you didn't sleep day before yesterday. When we were doing head count, we should have included some of you because you were around. On a lighter note, so you should have been included. But we want to appreciate your attendance. We always allocate 15, 20, and the attendance will always be more than that. And we have not said, no, it's enough now. But we want to say thanks a lot for just attending and the manner in which you covered the ANC conference. We have never come to you and say, write this. But what we appreciate is just objective coverage of the ANC. So we want to join Ubaba Mhlaba, ubonga nje all of you for participating in this conference. Thanks.
Thanks, Chair. There are some photographers that I'd like to have a picture of you, just to first year, and then they would also want to have some kind of head and shoulder. Then they would want to have the last one outside.